Okay, thank you so much. So let's start. My name is André Onana. I'm the president of the PMI Senegal chapter, and we are very happy to be with you today with this webinar on cybersecurity and project management. We are very honored to have Dr. Greg Smolowski to facilitate this webinar. Before starting, I would like to share some information with some chapter actuality with members. The first one is this activity you already know about, is some kind of practice session we will have on November, is the immersion day in the Jefferson Farm. So you already have some mails regarding this activity. So we encourage you to register and be with us to these activities. The second one is our annual conference. We will have our annual conference on 10 December 2022. So we encourage members and non-members to get the place in the website. We have special website for the conference. More detail will coming later. So save this date, 10 December, annual conference PMI Senegal. We also have two positions open in the board, Secretary General and VP Development Professional. So we would like to have 3 volunteers in order to set up the nomination committee. So if you are interested, just send me an email and we will get you in the nomination committee for that position. So we are very happy to have this webinar with Greg on the cybersecurity. You know that we are in the digital era, and in digital area, we have also many risks regarding digital transformation. And to address that risk, we need a cybersecurity. We are very happy to have Greg, who is a professor at the University of Bonn, to share with us the how to handle cybersecurity regarding project management perspective. What I can say about Greg, for me, is a person with two dimensions. He's project manager with a lot of prize. He won many prizes. He's award-winning project manager in Australia. He won also the CISO in Middle East Security Award. But Greg is also professor. He teaches project management at Bond University in Australia, and he is also author of 2 books. One book on cybersecurity project management, and the other one will be coming in 2023. So we are very happy to have Dr. Greg among us for this webinar. So thank you very much, Greg. You have the floor for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen, cybersecurity project management?
Yes, I can
Very
see your
good.
screen.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to share with you my approach to project management and cybersecurity project management. And I'm going to address three main points tonight. First of all, cybersecurity is all about risk management. And as project managers, we know something about risk management. Second is that there's no cybersecurity without projects. We can't order cybersecurity online from Amazon. We have to organize a project to deliver cybersecurity. And I'm going to share with you a risk management technique, not in the PMBOK guide, but it's in Shields Up, my book. Andre pointed out that I'm a project manager, and I would probably say I'm a project manager first, and second, I'm an academic. I started in projects, and they struggled in the 1990s. I was on teams. I wasn't the project manager, but something wasn't working. So I went and did a PhD in project management at the University of Calgary in Canada. But along my way, what I did was got introduced to PMI. And I attended chapter meetings. I gave presentations. I served coffee and tea. And along the way, I was invited to work on the PMBOK guide. So I joined the PMBOK update committee, and we updated the first version of the PMBOK guide and released the second version for the year 2000. So PMI has been very good for me, and I recommend that you think about volunteering with PMI. It's a fantastic opportunity. So I studied project management, and then I left and taught project management at Zayed University in Abu Dhabi at the United Arab Emirates. I enjoyed that, but I wanted to practice what I professed, so I joined the Cleveland Clinic project to build this hospital, and I joined almost at the start. I was employee 76, and we opened with about 5,000 people. This has more square footage than the tallest building in the world, Burj Khalifa. So this is like our hospital is like 5 skyscrapers on top of each other. An amazing project and an amazing organization. Along the way, I won a major award for cybersecurity, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I wanted to get back into teaching and research, so I joined a Bond University, and I lead the Project Innovation Management program. Last year, I was very pleased that my last project, where I was the project manager, won an innovation award. This year, I published Shields Up, Cybersecurity Project Management, and I'm writing a book about readiness and training. So let's begin. I'm going to look at the high demand for cybersecurity projects, and that there's a shift towards aligning standards, but this is hard to do, bring together the important standards. But I'll show you how we do it in Shields Up. And I'll look at a strategy not in the PMBOK guide for risk management. So what is cybersecurity? Well, it's defending digital assets from malicious attacks. And unfortunately, we see that cybercrime, cyber attacks, and cyber terrorism are increasing. But I'm particularly concerned about cyber terrorism. Remember how 9/11 changed air travel? Well, that's my concern here, that something big, catastrophic could happen. And the conditions are right for that to occur with the Russian and the Ukrainian war. Cyber attacks are playing a large role in the Ukraine war. I want you to think about this number, 287 days, according to IBM. That's how long it takes to detect and contain a security breach. Now, for me, when I look at these two verbs, detect and contain, I see that as risk management, as identify a risk and mitigate. So to me, cybersecurity is all about risk management. And that's something we as project managers, we do regularly. Now this 287 days, imagine that today I follow you home and sneak into your house, and I stay there until August 10th. That's 287 days where I watch you, look under your bed, open your drawers, look into boxes to see what you're doing. So that is 287 days. And so cybersecurity, what we try to do is reduce this number of days that it takes to detect and contain. Well, how does cybersecurity work? Well, what I'm going to do is describe the NIST framework for improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity. NIST is a framework, not a standard, but it's the leading cybersecurity framework in the world because it's generic, meaning that it can be applied to the public sector and government, nonprofit, and also for-profit businesses, and whether that business is small, medium, or large. So it's directed towards critical infrastructure such as agriculture, banking, communications, so on and so forth. So I'm going to use the NIST cybersecurity framework tonight because it's generic, widely applicable, and most of all, it's free. They have lots of resources that we can use. So cybersecurity begins with planning. What are we going to protect? Then we identify and prioritize what we protect. Then we install software, policies, and procedures to protect, detect threats, respond, and recover. These are the 5 cybersecurity functions, and the NIST framework also recommends that we apply quality improvement. So with NIST, we have the 5 functions with quality improvement. So there's 3 project drivers for cybersecurity. First of all, we see more digital transformation. So especially with the pandemic, organizations rushed to get people online and to connect people with other people, to connect databases and information, and connect systems. All of this was done expeditiously, but unfortunately, sometimes for some organizations, they neglected cybersecurity. So there's a lot of digital transformation projects with weak cybersecurity. So we're going to see more cybersecurity projects to patch digital transformation, but we also will see more cybersecurity projects because the golden age of artificial intelligence is about to arrive. So thought leaders, our predicting that the golden age of artificial intelligence will be from 2030 to 2060. So we're going to see a lot of perfectly good technology that will be dropped and replaced with artificial intelligence facilitated technology. And all of that will need to be protected. And that will be followed up with quantum computing. So we're going to see the need for cybersecurity projects for many decades. The second driver is that we're going to have a lot more project attacks on we're going to have more attacks on digital assets. Why? Well, first of all, it's very lucrative. You can make a lot of money. Second, it's also very easy. With a credit card and a few clicks of your mouse, you can buy powerful tools to get into hacking. And there's also a race to develop artificial intelligence hacking tools. So we're going to see more cybersecurity attacks because it's lucrative, and the technologies are being refined and developed for cyber attacks. And finally, we're going to have more cybersecurity projects because of government regulations. Governments are passing regulations to entice and enforce cybersecurity hygiene and good practices. So we're going to see more compliance for critical infrastructures. And also the insurance companies are losing a lot of money by paying out claims. So we're finding that insurance companies are tightening up their rules. So if you want insurance, you need to prove that you have good cybersecurity. Just the last month, Lloyd's of London announced that they will no longer provide insurance claims for state-sponsored attacks. So we see that there's going to be more projects for cybersecurity because there's more digital transformation, more cyber attacks, and more compliance. So this means we're going to have a lot more cybersecurity projects, and the demand for cybersecurity project managers is going to increase. Some are commenting in the trade literature that we have a crisis occurring. I want to share with you some studies and reports about cybersecurity that also indicates there's a strong demand for cybersecurity. Checkpoint Research in August released this report. It's a nice little report that goes through month by month throughout the world of the major cybersecurity attacks. And the researchers conclude that security teams should get on a war footing. That's how bad it is. And state-sponsored threats are what the concern is. Now, Microsoft has identified 4 states that sponsor cyber terrorism. So can you tell by the flags? It's Russia, according to Microsoft, China, Iran, and North Korea. The Ukrainian Minister of Digital Transformation has put out a call for digital talents, and approximately 262,000 hacktivists are now actively attacking Russian assets. So here's the concern, is that we have a cybersecurity arms race where hacktivists are getting better at using the tools and techniques to attack Russia. So the concern is after the Ukrainian-Russian war is over, that these highly skilled hacktivists will then want to use their skills in other areas. So it's quite alarming. I want to share a report from Australia about an action plan for critical technologies, and cybersecurity is a part of these critical technologies now. So our government has recognized it's no use expanding and innovating in energy or navigation or quantum computing or robots unless we can secure these critical technologies. And let's not forget that the only way we can get these critical technologies is we implement, optimize, and protect them through projects. So my friends, project managers are the key to these critical technologies and a successful action plan. Our defense, our military in Australia, a month ago released a cybersecurity strategy. So they watched what was happening with the Russian-Ukrainian war, and they have concluded that they need to do something. I want to bring your attention to what the military in Australia has concluded, that they are under constant cyber attack, constant, and that Australia needs to get better at cybersecurity in order to succeed in future conflicts. Imagine that. And how they're going to get better at cybersecurity is that they're going to leverage cybersecurity standards, particularly NIST and ISO 27001, Information Security Management. So our government, to address the threats, is going to improve cybersecurity and are leveraging standards to do that. And finally, the World Economic Forum is predicting cyber disasters. Well, what's driving this? It's their concern about quantum computing. As soon as the hackers get quantum computing technologies, it's going to change everything. It can lead to cyber disasters. So right now, there's a cyber arms race underway. And unfortunately, the bad actors, they have the advantage now. So we see the recommendation that we should move to a war footing. But the only way we can move to a war footing is to improve cybersecurity, and we can only do that with project management. Cybersecurity is so important, it's now considered a critical technology and a national priority. And we can see that cybersecurity threats are going to be with us for decades. So it's a good time to develop cybersecurity project management skills. So what's the best approach? I'm going to use the PMBOK guide and bring into it risk management from ISO and quality management from ISO. And I'm going to use ITIL. ITIL is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library that explains how to deliver digital services. And I'll add to it the cybersecurity standards. So what's the best approach? Well, we are guided by the PMBOK guide that projects start because there's a demand for a product or service. We don't do projects because we have nothing better to do. We initiate projects because there's a demand. And then we can follow the traditional approach to project management, the waterfall approach. And I'm going to add to it a phase called the T2P, transition to production, T2P. And this is the last phase before we go live. And we go live, we have to take away passwords from our vendors. We train our help desk. We train the end users. We might do penetration testing of the new software, and we will do a backup and restore. So there's maybe 30 activities that we have to do in this phase called transition to production. Because more and more of our projects have digital elements, for example, roadworks increasingly have sensors, we can be advised to add a transition to production phase. Then we go live and deliver value. So project management begins with a demand, we follow a process, and we deliver value. But we might go beyond the basics and include tailoring so we don't do too much or too little. In the design phase, we might include design thinking or Lean Six Sigma. You can find free Lean Six Sigma training online. And you can get your white belt. Lean Six Sigma is a powerful problem-solving technique. So whenever you're trying to improve a process, automate a process, Lean Six Sigma is a great tool to help you do that. During the testing phase, we might use ITIL that tells us how to test digital products. So here we are, we're combining with another framework. We can also use ITIL to develop a transition to production checklist of the items we need to do and complete before we go live. So you can see here our approach to project management is based on what's in the PMBOK guide. Now the value proposition here is follow the project management approach to keep quality high and risks low. Now, this approach applies to most projects most of the time. I've used this rubric since my PMBOK guide days. When I was on the PMBOK guide committee, we updated and we had a call for changes, a call for updates. What did the project managers want to change in the first edition? And to decide whether or not it was brought into the second edition, it had to be applicable to most projects most of the time. So there might be a lot of good theory, but it had to be applicable to most projects most of the time to get into the new PMBOK guide. And so that is the basis of Shields Up, is that what I've described in my book is applicable to most cybersecurity projects most of the time. So we can take this approach for most cybersecurity projects. And if you look closely, you can see hybrid project management. There's also room for agile project management, and we use this in cybersecurity projects. mostly for continual improvement. Now, the value proposition here is that if you follow the agile project management approach, you can keep quality high and risks low. So you can see that the value proposition is being repeated, and fundamental to the value proposition is follow this process to keep quality high and risks low. Quality management is also part of cybersecurity project management, and we can rely upon ISO 9001. And it begins with quality assurance. And quality assurance is something that we've done for decades. Measure twice, cut once. And quality assurance can be improved through training, following processes, templates, and using checklists. So we do quality assurance before we complete the work. After we complete the work, we can do quality control. And you'll notice that the ratio is that we do more quality assurance, so we do less quality control. So we do quality assurance activities, we complete the work, and then we do quality control, find and fix defects. And we can follow processes and checklists to find and fix defects. But I want you to notice that we do quality assurance before control. And you'll probably recognize that in some of the conversations with colleagues, they might talk about quality assurance and finding defects. Well, that's not quite correct. Find and fix defects is quality control, and we can use the ABC to remember. But I want you to think about the project plan. The project plan is what we do before we go into the build phase. So an approved project plan really is a quality assurance document. So really what we do as project managers in the planning phase are quality assurance activities. And again, for quality management, the value proposition is follow this approach to keep quality high and risks low. So we have a recurring theme over and over. Follow this approach to keep quality high and risks low. And risk management, according to ISO 9001, is also included in the PMBOK guide. A continual improvement quality management is a plan, do, check, act. And we know that is the Deming cycle. It's also in the PMBOK guide for continual improvement. But if you think about continual improvement, plan, do the work, evaluate, check, and then act and roll it out, it's based on, or it's the origins for agile project management. So before agile, IT had a problem with a low success rate. So the developers of agile thought about that. They turned to the Deming cycle and applied this to project management. And that's how we get agile. So we have Ed Deming and quality management to thank for agile project management. And we can use this in cybersecurity projects. One of the things I like about Ed Deming is he was very witty. He wrote that leadership is only 99% of the problem. You can find more Ed Deming quotes online. We also use risk management, and ISO risk management begins with planning, where we identify risks, we analyze the probability and impact, and treatment, we identify prevention and mitigation, and we monitor and control if necessary. The PMBOK guide refers to treatment as response. But again, the value proposition is follow the risk management approach to keep quality high and risks low. So all of these standards are aligning around quality and risk. So we can incorporate these standards together into the common project management delivery approach. So we're relying on integration management, we're tailoring, we're combining, we're taking a hybrid project management approach here. And we can use the same approach in cybersecurity projects. Well, earlier I briefly introduced you to ITIL, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. And I want to describe this now because it's a framework to deliver digital services. So this is the leading global framework that IT departments follow. So it's based on the ITIL Service Value System. It begins with a demand or opportunity for a digital service, new software. And then we initiate a project. We deliver that new software to operations. They use it and derive value. And then over time, they want to improve the software, add more functionality. So they want continual improvement. So this is the ITIL approach to managing technology. It has 34 practices, and it's similar to the PMBOK guide where we have 10 knowledge areas. Let me show you a few of these practices, and I'd like you to think about your IT department in your organization, in your company. They likely have an IT strategy for the next 2 or 3 years. So they might follow ITIL to develop their IT strategy. They will develop and implement projects. They follow risk management. And they might have a release management process. And release management is simply what we do to get the new software ready for the end users. So this risk management, according to ITIL, is aligned perfectly with ISO and risk management in the PMBOK guide. In operations, ITIL has a practice for the service desk and how to operate your help desk. And they also have an incident management practice. So when your printer doesn't work, or if I need help with my password, I can contact the help desk and they will follow the incident management process. Give me a ticket number and then work on the incident and close out the ticket. They also have a process in ITIL for new software. That's called a service request management. And ITIL also have a continual improvement practice, which is aligned with ISO, quality management, and what we do in quality management in the PMBOK guide. So here is a few ITIL practices, and you likely will see this in your own organization. So organizations naturally do this type of work to deliver digital services. And so ITIL might be followed formally to informally. And you can see in ITIL, project management, risk management, quality management, the things that we're experts at, are vital to delivering digital services. So I'd like you to conclude with me that project managers and the skills that we have are vital to ITIL, and that these are our cousins. So what's the best approach for digital requirements? Well, we add ITIL, project management. We add quality and risk management. These are the standards I believe we should bring together. And we can apply this to cybersecurity projects because cybersecurity is a digital service. So we integrate these standards, combine and tailor. Now this approach, while I'm talking about cybersecurity tonight, you can apply this exact approach to most of the critical technology projects most of the time. So let's incorporate these standards. And what I want to do is share 3 main use cases for cybersecurity projects. So the very first use case is that we implement cybersecurity software. Currently, SOAR software is very popular, and that stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. So here we have a demand to improve detection and response capabilities for the organization. So we will initiate a project. Oh, pardon me. So we initiate a project and we follow the project management delivery approach to deliver new software that improves detection and response capabilities. Okay, so here I'm illustrating it as the traditional or waterfall approach. And that's because for most cybersecurity software, we don't need Agile. Most cybersecurity software can be implemented following a traditional approach because there's very little ambiguity. So we hire the firm, the vendor, to install their own software. So the vendor installs their software every week. So they understand their software, they know how to implement it. So there's very little ambiguity. Therefore, we usually don't need Agile approach to installing cybersecurity software. So the first use case is we have cybersecurity project management to implement cybersecurity software. The second use case is where we implement technology. So we have a new technology project, maybe to implement an ERP project, a new financial system, for example, or a new CRM, customer relationship management, or a robotics industrial automation project, a pharmacy project, a laboratory project. So here the idea is, in this use case, is we implement technology. And what we do is we design in cybersecurity. Okay? So we design in cybersecurity. So we know that in the initiation phase is we have the opportunity to identify our stakeholders and inform them that we're initiating a project. So here what we do is we inform IT security that we have a new technology project. We invite IT security to the planning phase and have them verify the work we have to do in the T2P phase. So they can check our checklist, and add any changes. Now, the IT security team, they are concerned. They don't want us to build what we can't protect. So what we do is we invite IT security to verify our design and approve it. So now they are looking at a design and making sure that they can protect our technology. So IT security brings cybersecurity, and we bring project management. So the IT security team makes sure that the design is compliant with NIST or ISO information management. We then build and test the software, and then IT security completes the items on the T2P checklist, like penetration testing. They might do a backup and restore. So this technique about designing in cybersecurity is what I did to win the major award in the Middle East. And I don't think I did anything special. I just did stakeholder management. But this was unique at the time because many other project managers didn't pay much attention to cybersecurity, and they would deliver designs that were difficult to protect. Now, the third use case for cybersecurity projects is to conduct a cybersecurity audit. Remember that we have more regulations. So that means organizations, especially in critical infrastructure, are going to be required by law to conduct more audits, both internal and external. So we're going to see more audits, and with these audits, it will expose gaps, and we'll want to improve by moving through the tiers. So the NIST cybersecurity framework has audit guidance for us. Cybersecurity audits are examples of low complexity projects. And they're low complexity because the requirements are clearly stated by NIST. There's no testing, and we can follow the well-established audit process. So if you want your first cybersecurity project, or if you want to assign a more junior person to a cybersecurity project, this is a great first project, auditing. Well, I want to look at these functions a little bit closely and how auditing works. So here's the 5 NIST functions. Before I showed them as an iterative circle, but now I'm just showing them as pillars. So we have these 5 functions: identify, protect, detect, and respond. And each of these functions has categories like asset management, business environment, governance, risk assessment. Now, one of these categories is training, awareness and training. So I want to look at this a little bit more closely and how NIST cybersecurity auditing works. Okay, so each of these functions, like protect, can be assessed. So for the protect function, one of the categories is awareness and training. And we have to provide training, and the subcategories provide us with more specific guidance. So all users need to be informed and trained. And the next 4 subcategories are role-based training. So privileged users, those who have access to the deepest parts of the system, they need specialized training. Third-party Stakeholders like suppliers need training, specific role-based training. Senior executives and board members also need specific training. And finally, physical guards and cybersecurity personnel need to understand their roles and responsibilities. So what the auditor does for each of these subcategories, they document the evidence. Okay, so for a NIST cybersecurity, for each of the 5 functions, we go through the 22 categories and look at all the subcategories and document the evidence. So we're going to see more audits following this process in the future. Regarding cybersecurity readiness, it's a function of training, and my second book is focused on this angle of cybersecurity. The auditing steps are well established. We understand our current profile. We create a future target profile. We analyze the gaps to get there, and we develop an action plan, a project. So this is a bunch of projects doing this. And I'll let you read the description later when I supply the slides. So the NIST cybersecurity framework provides a very nice approach to do audits. It has the tools in the framework, and it's a very nice type of a project that we'll see more of it. So we're going to see more NIST compliance requirements, resulting in more cybersecurity projects. About 25 years ago, I did a lot of research on project management maturity, and I was invited on to the PMI OPM3 standards project, the Organizational Project Management Maturity Model. So I was involved in the PMBOK guide, the OPM3, and the Project Manager Competency Standard. So I was involved in 3 standards projects at this time, and got to understand how project management maturity and maturity models work. And so the idea is follow the maturity model, and we can improve our project management capability in the PMO. So we released the OPM3 model, the standard, and the value proposition here is follow the OPM3 model to keep project management quality high and risks low. And the NIST maturity model works almost the same way. So the point here is, if you're familiar with organizational project management maturity, then you will recognize the similarity of the NIST maturity model. So again, it's an opportunity for project managers to get involved in cybersecurity projects, especially audits and improvement projects. That's something that we do well in project management. So here's our 3 use cases. Our first use case is to implement cybersecurity software, and we can use the traditional waterfall approach. The second type of cybersecurity project is where we design in security. And in the design phase, we invite IT security to bring in the NIST and ISO standards. And finally, we might do auditing to see how close we comply with cybersecurity regulations. The thing with these audits is that they will often trigger additional projects to improve capabilities. So that's cybersecurity project management standards alignment. We're focused on delivering value, which is cybersecurity. When there's a demand to improve one of the functions, we initiate a project. And we can follow the project management delivery approach to deliver cybersecurity functionality. We rely on our IT team to guide us for ISO and NIST. And we can use project management for continuous improvement, either optimization sprints to improve capabilities in the software. We can use a Lean Six Sigma study to improve the process, or we can follow an ADDIE sprint to improve capabilities of people. ADDIE stands for Analyze Training Requirements, Design and Develop Training, Implement Training, and Evaluate Training. So the ADDIE sprint is that when we want to improve the people side. So we have an approach for continuous improvement that is project management based. So you can see here that cybersecurity project management relies heavily on what we do in projects. It begins in the project environment where we implement a project, and we hand it over to operations in the production environment. What we are doing here aligns with the standards from PMI, the PMBOK guide, but also with PRINCE 2. It aligns with what they do with that standard. We can accommodate NIST and its maturity to move through the tiers to improve our cybersecurity capabilities, either through a project or through continuous improvement. So here we can bring together the leading standards that IT departments and project managers want to bring together, and it neatly aligns. And I've done this in Shields Up. Now, a word about compliance. Just because you comply doesn't mean that you're well protected. There's a syndrome called tick the box. Okay? So instead, what people do, they use the standards to identify performance KPIs around protection, detection, response, and recovery. So they're focused not on regulatory compliance, rather they're focused on performance KPIs, and they use the standards to improve compliance with the KPIs. Okay? So they move through the tiers to get better performance. This is the same problem we recognized in the OPM3 maturity model decades ago. So the difficulty of focusing only on compliance is well understood. I want to briefly turn the attention to a risk management technique, not in the PMBOK guide, that I've detailed in Shields Up. It's the ability to change paradox. At the beginning of a project, my apologies, I have a slide from Nigeria that we shared last night. Now, the ability to change paradox, at the beginning of a project, we know very little about it at the beginning, but at the end of a project, we have a lot of information. For example, we know what risks occurred, we know what suppliers and partners performed well, we know who on our team were heroes who did great work. At the beginning of a project, we have lots of ability to make changes. So if our project is to build a 10-story timber building out of lumber, wood, At the beginning, it's very easy to make our meeting rooms 20% larger to address social isolation. So at the beginning, it's very easy to make a decision to make our meeting rooms 20% larger. However, once we start constructing and building our meeting rooms, to make changes to make our meeting rooms bigger, it gets increasingly more difficult to make changes. Until at the end of a project, if we want to make our rooms bigger, we have to knock down walls. And if we do want to make changes, the changes are least costly at the beginning. But if we have to knock down walls to make meeting rooms larger, these changes are increasingly expensive to make. And so here's our paradox. When changes are the easiest and least costly, we lack information. But when we have lots of information later in the project, these changes are more difficult to make and more expensive. So what we try to do is shift the information curve to learn more about our project sooner. And this is a risk management technique that you can immediately use. So what we're trying to do is learn more about our project. So what we can do is front-end load. Bring work forward to create room in the future. So if you ever said, I wish I had one more day, this is how you do it. So we have to be careful. We can't bring all work forward, but there's certain work we can bring forward to front-end load. Let me show you how an example of what I used to do. Here we have a new project. It begins with a demand, and I inform IT security that we have a new project. Well, with stakeholder management, I ask 3 questions at the beginning of a project. Done, one, who? When is the project done? What do we have to deliver for the project to be wildly successful? And who gets to vote on the first 2 questions? Well, the supply chain people are done earlier than our IT people who test. So we can have different finish points for different stakeholders. And different stakeholders have different requirements. So done one who helps me identify stakeholders like IT security. In the planning phase, I invite IT security and we go through the T2P checklist. So we're trying to answer what has to be done in the T2P phase to get it ready to hand over. When can we do these tasks? And here I'm looking at an early start. Can I do some of these tasks outside of the T2P phase? And who has to do these tasks? So what I was able to do is work with the people who would do the work to write tickets. Now, when you raise a ticket, often we want the work to be done right away. So if I have a printer problem, I want the printer to be fixed right away, so I raise a ticket for help. But I can also raise a ticket for future work. And that's what I've done here. I raised tickets for T2P work in the planning phase. So in the planning phase, I identified what has to be done in the T2P, if I can do it earlier, and who gets to do the work. So the people that that has to do the ticket, I worked with them. They actually wrote the ticket for me, so they knew exactly what they had to do. So then I verified the design with IT security and verified the T2P checklist with the release manager to make sure nothing was missing. So then we built the software, we tested it, and in the T2P phase, we executed the T2P checklist items. But because I collected early start information, I was able to move about 60% of these items outside of the T2P phase. So the result is I had less work in the T2P phase because I front-end loaded. So if you ever wished I had one more day, this is how you might do it, front-end load. And I tell my students that 12-hour days are easier at the start of a semester than at the end. So at the beginning of the project, I would have long days to front-end load to create a room in the future to address risks and to provide time to take advantage of opportunities. So this is a technique that's not in the PMBOK guide, but it's applicable to most projects, front-end load. So to conclude, 3 main points I made tonight. First of all, cybersecurity is about risk management. And to do cybersecurity projects, we can align the most important standards. Cybersecurity is delivered through projects. So we can't buy cybersecurity on eBay or Amazon. We have to initiate a project, form teams, and go through the project delivery approach. When we want to improve it, we can use agile and adaptive delivery techniques for improvement. And finally, I shared with you a technique to front-end load to shift the information curve. So that's cybersecurity project management. We form, the basis is on standards, and we leverage these standards around quality and risk. This approach has been well received. It's received a lot of good critical praise, and it's a recognizable contribution for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So that's Shields Up, cybersecurity project management. I've included a few other reports here, IBM and the cost of the data breach. This is where the 287 days comes from. Microsoft identified the nation states as threat actors, the increase in cybersecurity legislation, and critical technologies. I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn and to volunteer with PMI. So thank you, Andre, and to the rest for allowing me to speak about Shields Up, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Greg, for this insightful presentation. I personally really learned a lot. So we have about 15 minutes for question. So one question in the chat. I don't know, Clément, if you are there, you can put your question, or if you want, I could read the question you put in the chat.
Hey, Dr. Andre. So thank you very much, Greg, for the great presentation. So that was just a chat between us when it was about talking about hacking and something like that. So I basically asked the question about, I'm seeing a lot of training going around on training people how to hack, to make hacking. So I was asking my colleague if being part of this, of those kind of training is ethical or not. So that was a kind of discussion between us. Thank you very much.
Well, we need our IT security team to test the robustness. So that's called ethical hacking and penetration testing. So it's a standard, and it's accepted by industry. It's good practice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Karim, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Doctor, and thank you for the presentation. It was very insightful and informative. So my question to you is, do you ever use also COBIT alongside the other frameworks? Because I was surprised not to hear it mentioned alongside NIST and ITIL.
Yes, COBIT is very good. It's what I do. It's aligned with COBIT, so it's yeah. COBIT is a way to organize IT, and the focus is on COBIT or ITIL. It's more for the IT department and the operations. So whether it's COBIT or ITIL, what we do in project management, it doesn't affect us. Okay, it's only those few things that we need to do to hand over that we need to work with the release manager, whether it's a COBIT approach or ITIL. So what I've done here, it's aligns with both of them. It doesn't matter to a great deal whether it's COBIT or ITIL. They work the same from a project management perspective. What they want is the new software, and that's what we do in the project world. Once we hand over, how they operate is a little bit different in COBIT from ITIL, but that doesn't affect us in the project environment. Okay, so for the most part, from a project manager's perspective, COBIT and ITIL are mostly the same. A great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I give the floor to Ibrahima Diallo, I would like to put some question. At the beginning of your presentation, you said that cybersecurity is all about risk management. So my question is it all risk, or is focused to digital risk? Because for me, cybersecurity is related to some specific risk in digital area.
Yeah. So with cybersecurity, the trend is to take a holistic approach and to shift away from it's a digital problem. So the shift is away from IT to business operations. So you want these tools to support your business. You also need to accept the risks of using the technology. So 2 points. First of all, we see a change that cybersecurity is seen less as a technical risk and more of a business risk. Therefore, we need business buy-in. The second is that the functions of cybersecurity aligns to risk management. So cybersecurity, it's about prevention. Okay, so they protect. Then it's about identifying risks, and then it's mitigating. So what they do in cybersecurity is risk management, what we do in projects. So that's why I say cybersecurity is really risk management. And so it's that's something that we understand. So we can talk and work very closely with IT and IT security because we want the same thing, risk management and keep quality high. Okay?
Okay, that's good. So Ibrahima Diallo, you can put your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Andra. Thank you, Mr. Greg. and I really appreciate your presentation. And I learned from your presentation that cybersecurity reached today a very high level, as this can affect our defense and our military systems. And I was affected by your example at the beginning of your presentation, when you say that more than 100,000 hackers respond to the demand of the IT minister of Ukraine. And after the war, where is going these hackers? And this example is similarly on what we have in Libya. You know, during the protest in Libya in 2011, some mercenary was called to fight the Libyan army. And what we see is after this war, there is no security in West Africa, in the Sahel region, you know, in Mali, Burkina, and examples are similar. So we have to think real about it. Yeah. And my question about the presentation is how today to deal the risk, the stakeholders management on cybersecurity project. If you consider today hackers to be part of the stakeholders, how to deal with them, how to manage with them on the cybersecurity management. Thank you.
Well, I want to make clear is that there's two roles for cybersecurity. Project managers, we deliver the capability. And then it's the IT department and business that uses the capability. So it's not our role to make sure that it's used properly. As a project manager, all I do is deliver the capability, and then I'm finished. The IT department has to make sure that it's properly used, that they train. So I'm looking at Mahmoudou's question, the challenge to spread the cybersecurity mindset to all stakeholders. So as a project manager, I'm only focused on the project, not all stakeholders. That's the sponsor who's responsible for that. So I draw a very distinct role for what a project manager does and what the sponsor does. So the sponsor's responsible for making sure all stakeholders are cyber aware, not the project manager. I simply deliver the software. I come from healthcare, so I would deliver healthcare technology, but it was up to the doctor to make it successful, not to me. Okay, so I draw a distinction between roles of what the project manager does and the sponsor.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, okay, I understood. It's very clear for me now. And okay. Just last question, if Mr. Andre allow me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Second question. Yeah. And I see about the risk management for the response. You talk more about to mitigate. What about the others response, like to avoid or to transfer the risk? What about this type of response about cybersecurity risk management?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But so that is. So we have risk management in the project, and we have cybersecurity risk management in operations. Okay, so we have two different. So we have what we do, and sometimes we make decisions to avoid or to just accept the risk. But on the business side, they also have those kind of risk management decisions. So right now, for organizations, one of the main dialogues is about balancing risk, how much we accept. So right now, some people are saying it's impossible to prevent 100%. So we have to balance how much risk we accept. So that conversation is going on, and that will affect the design of our systems? So a very good question about these other techniques that comes into the design phase on how much risk the organization wants to accept, and that is what we design in. And so, great question. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you, Ibrahima, for the question. Just to remind the people who attend the webinar that this webinar give you 1.5 PDU. Please fill the form in the conversation in order to claim your PDU. Don't forget that. So, but Baitir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Onana, for organizing this. Thank you, Greg, for the great presentation. My question actually deals with tools or techniques actually that you think are the most useful when doing actually a risk assessment project from an IT perspective. I have run in a company actually, or I have managed to do a risk assessment project, and it was quite difficult actually from the beginning to use the NIST framework, because we already had a risk management strategy from an IT perspective, but then we had lots of cloud-based infrastructure and applications, and at some point actually it was a little hard to identify exactly which assets do we want to work on. Are we talking like if we take the data at rest and in transit, what are we doing there exactly? If we take the infrastructure, knowing that it's not on-prem infrastructures, it was all cloud-based. It was a little bit hard actually to identify all risks and then to address them. So from your experience, I don't know what you think are the most useful techniques or tools to identify such IT risks.
Yeah. Great question, and that's the heart of my book, Shields Up. It's a risk management-based approach to cybersecurity projects. So for me, in my PhD, I had an amazing professor who was, a project manager like me and a professor second. And he introduced me to some risk management techniques that I document in Shields Up, which has made a massive change or impact to my my practice, risk management. But it's done a little bit differently than how it's in the PMBOK guide. So I encourage you to look at risk management, how I do it in Shields Up, because I think it's better than anywhere else on how they do risk management. It's a very innovative approach that's quite simple to apply. So I wish I had more time. Invite me back. I'll show you a risk management in Shields Up technique if you want, but it's a powerful technique that I've used on all my projects, both in the Middle East and in Australia.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. Where we can find the book, your book?
It's on Amazon, and you can use your phone. There's the QR code.
Okay, good. We have 2 more minutes. I don't know if somebody else have another question for Greg. Just one question is regarding the PMBOK. You know that we have a new PMBOK, the PMBOK 7.
Yes.
And and I don't see exactly where the cybersecurity mindset is. I don't know if you have already read the chapter regarding the risk on PMBOK 7. I want to hear about your perspective related to that approach of the risk management when we are looking, when we are seeing what you just present regarding the cybersecurity.
Yeah. So for me, I see the PMBOK 6 and 7 working together as layers. So it's not one or the other, it's both. Where PMBOK 7 is more strategic, for example, we have the principles which guide us, and 6 is more tactical, where we have the knowledge areas and the processes. So together, we use them in Shields Up Cybersecurity.
Okay, that's good. And you know that PMI just published the book of process to go with the PMBOK 7, and in that side you have also some tools regarding risk. I believe that can be a good tool for project manager to address risk in cybersecurity project. I don't know if you have a last word to say.
Yes, I do. First of all, thank you to yourself, Andre, and to your team that takes their time to volunteer. Volunteers are critical, and I encourage others to volunteer as well. It's immensely satisfying, and you meet the nicest people this way. So I'd like to end on that.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your availability, your kindness. I really be happy to organize this webinar with you. Thank you so much, and I hope we will see you in other occasion to share with PMI Senegal. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Andre, just a quick question, if I may. This is
Karim, go ahead. Yeah.
Doctor, my question to you is, just like they have a new section of PMI dedicated to construction, and since cybersecurity, it would be the new big thing for the next 30 years, do you foresee maybe a specialty in cybersecurity alongside project management being developed by PMI?
It might be, but I don't think we need because the tools aren't insufficient. It's just the basics we need. If you think about the
Okay.
3 use cases,
Mm-hmm.
the existing tools are fine. So cybersecurity is mostly occurs in operations. That's where all the changes and challenges. What we do, we deliver the capability. And we can do it with just simple tools and processes, the standard waterfall approach, and manage your risks along the way. That's what's key. So we don't really need anything differently on the project side. It's on the cybersecurity side in operations where there's the cyber war, the changes. That's where the challenges are. What we do, it's straightforward. That's our bread and butter. I don't think we really need an extension or new in project management for cybersecurity project management.
Do we also leave to operations the design of the user guides?
Well, yes. Now I've
Okay.
done a lot of user guides, and I follow the ADDIE process to develop them. Yes, technical documentation. I've done a lot of that. They follow the design, but I like to bring the process, including pilot testing. So I like to bring the process. They bring the expertise and content.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Don't forget to fill the form for claim your PDU. So, Dr. Greg, thank you so much, and see you next time if possible. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.